Bugatti has just revealed something absolutely outrageous. It's called the Destrier. It has nearly 1,600 horsepower. It stands roughly 1 meter tall, and it looks like someone has taken a futuristic Le Mans prototype and turned it into a luxury hypercar. But the craziest thing isn't the power. It's the fact that Bugatti will build just one Destrier, making this one of the rarest modern Bugattis ever created. And the more closely you look at it, the more ridiculous it gets. The Destrier is a completely bespoke creation built through Bugatti's Program Solitaire. This isn't a normal production model where customers choose some paint, carbon fiber, and a nice set of wheels. The entire point is to create a machine specifically for one customer, and you can see that philosophy immediately. The Destrier is unbelievably low. Its roof sits at around 1 meter high, meaning the entire car appears almost glued to the road. Add that enormous width and those muscular wheel arches, and from some angles it looks more like a road-going racing prototype than a traditional hypercar. At the front, you still have Bugatti's unmistakable horseshoe grille, but everything around it has been stretched, sharpened, and sculpted into a much more dramatic shape. The headlights are extremely slim. The nose sits incredibly close to the ground, and huge openings guide air around and through the body. But despite all that aggression, it doesn't look messy. There aren't aerodynamic elements sticking out everywhere just for the sake of looking extreme. Instead, the body is surprisingly clean. Follow the car around to the side, and you'll find one of its most striking details: that sweeping C-shaped line wrapping around the cabin. It visually separates the cockpit from the rest of the body and makes the Destrier look like it's moving even when it's standing still. Then you reach the rear, and things get properly serious. 4 exhaust outlets sit together in the center, surrounded by a huge diffuser. Above them, the rear bodywork forms an integrated aerodynamic structure rather than simply having an enormous wing bolted on top. And that's probably the best way to describe the Destrier's design. It's aggressive without looking like it's trying too hard. Even the name has some meaning behind it. A Destrier was a powerful medieval warhorse associated with knights, and Bugatti has carried that theme into the details of the car. There are references to armor, craftsmanship, and strength throughout the design. And strength is something this car definitely isn't lacking. Behind the driver is Bugatti's legendary 8.0-liter quad-turbocharged W16 engine. It produces 1,600 PS, which works out to roughly 1,578 horsepower. That's nearly 1,600 horsepower in a car whose roof is roughly level with your waist. The power goes through a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission and out to all 4 wheels. And underneath the Destrier's bespoke bodywork is an extremely advanced carbon fiber monocoque, giving the car some seriously exotic foundations. But here's where things get interesting. Despite giving it almost 1,600 horsepower, Bugatti hasn't made the Destrier's reveal all about acceleration figures or top speed. Detailed Destrier-specific performance numbers haven't been publicly confirmed in the reliable information available so far. And that's unusual. Normally, when a hypercar has this much power, the manufacturer can't wait to tell you how quickly it'll reach 100 kilometers per hour or what enormous number it'll eventually show on the speedometer. Here, the engineering is almost secondary to the object itself, because climb inside and the Destrier becomes even stranger. The cabin combines brown leather and nubuck with 3-dimensional knitted textile. Bugatti has even incorporated copper yarn into parts of the material, creating tiny details that react differently depending on how the light hits them. There are specially finished metal surfaces as well, with some of the detailing designed to reference hammered metal and medieval armor. So outside, you've got nearly 1,600 horsepower and 4 enormous exhaust pipes. Inside, you've got the sort of craftsmanship you'd normally expect from handmade jewelry or extremely expensive furniture. And remember, all of this is being created for one person. There won't be another Destrier parked beside it at some supercar meet. You won't have another owner turning up with the same specification. This car is literally the specification. And that's what makes it different from almost every normal hypercar. Now, this is where the wider Bugatti story becomes important. The Destrier's carbon fiber monocoque and W16 engineering have a direct connection to the Bolide, Bugatti's extreme track-focused machine. But visually, the two cars go in completely different directions. The Bolide is designed to look and function like a racing weapon. Huge aerodynamic surfaces, an enormous rear wing, and a cockpit centered around track driving make its purpose very obvious. The Destrier takes those extreme foundations and effectively asks, what happens if we turn them into something elegant? That's why you shouldn't think of this as simply a Bolide with different bodywork. The philosophy is completely different. One is about extracting performance on a circuit. The other is about taking extraordinary engineering and using it to create a one-off piece of automotive design. And then there's another reason the Destrier feels significant. Bugatti's famous W16 era is reaching its conclusion. The company has already introduced the Tourbillon with an entirely new, naturally aspirated V16 hybrid powertrain. So the future of Bugatti sounds very different from its recent past. That makes the Destrier's 8.0-liter quad turbo W16 feel almost like a greatest hits album being played at maximum volume. But there is a reality check. What on earth would this thing actually be like to use? The roof is around 1 meter tall. The body is extremely wide. You're sitting inside something completely unique, surrounded by bespoke bodywork that would presumably be a nightmare to repair if somebody so much as nudged it in a car park. Imagine approaching a steep underground parking ramp in this. You wouldn't be thinking about the 1,578 horsepower behind you. You'd be staring at the front splitter, wondering whether the next 5 meters were about to become the most expensive scraping noise in automotive history. But that's also missing the point slightly. Nobody commissions a one-of-one Bugatti because they need something sensible for the supermarket. The Destrier exists because at this level, simply owning an extremely rare hypercar apparently isn't exclusive enough anymore. And Bugatti hasn't publicly announced what the owner paid for that privilege. That's probably for the best, because without an official figure, attaching some enormous number to it would just be speculation. What we can say is that this is a completely bespoke, one-of-one machine created through Bugatti's most exclusive coach building program. And that's ultimately what makes the Destrier so fascinating. It isn't trying to launch a new model line. It isn't chasing a production record. And based on what Bugatti has revealed so far, it isn't even using top speed as its main headline. Instead, it's about taking some of the most extreme engineering Bugatti has created and building something around it that only one person will ever own. Nearly 1,600 horsepower, a quad-turbo W16, carbon fiber construction, a roof around 1 meter high, bespoke materials, and exactly one example. The Destrier is ridiculous in almost every measurable way. But perhaps the most ridiculous thing is that in a world filled with multi-million-dollar hypercars built in tiny numbers, Bugatti has managed to create something where even seeing another one is impossible. Because there isn't another one. So what do you think? Is the Destrier one of the best-looking modern Bugattis yet? Or has Bugatti finally taken the one-off hypercar obsession too far? Let me know what you think in the comments below.